bursting of the dot-com bubble in 2000 and the collapse of many stocks in the US stock market, particularly technology stocks, many American investors turned to real estate, considered a risk-free asset. The US government encouraged families to buy their own homes, and the Fed worked to reduce interest rates as much as possible. These rates, which had reached record levels, meant that borrowing money from the bank to buy real estate cost almost nothing. However, as bank profit rates were falling, they were at the same time looking to lend to a greater number of people. This is where the problem arose. When you want to borrow to buy real estate, you need to provide collateral to the bank, such as a work contract, your salary, and the assets you already own. But at that time, banks turned a blind eye to collateral and lent money blindly. These high-risk loans were called subprimes. The only collateral they needed was the mortgage on the concerned real estate. Thus, a person would go to the bank, ask for a specific amount of money, buy the real estate, and mortgage it without any other collateral, then repay the loan in monthly installments. If this person became unable to repay for any reason, such as illness or job loss, the bank simply seized the property and sold it. With the repetition of this process, real estate prices in the United States began to increase fantastically. At the same time, the number of people unable to repay increased. This inability reached $600 billion in 2008, which at the time represented a quarter of the total loans in the United States. As all banks seized properties and put them up for sale, there was an excess of supply compared to demand, leading to the collapse of real estate prices. The banks then began to resort to selling bonds and financial assets they owned, mainly stocks. The real estate crisis thus transformed into a stock market crisis, and US stocks began to collapse. At this point, the crisis was solely American. But in September, many major banks announced their bankruptcy, the most famous being Lehman Brothers. The crisis then transformed into a banking system crisis, with trust between banks collapsing and the crisis spreading to European banks. In October, the US president announced a multi-billion-dollar bailout plan to prevent the collapse of the banking system, and many European leaders did the same. After this crisis, all banking activities were readjusted and are now governed by numerous strict laws, which require banks to hold a high percentage of the money lent in the form of real liquidity. However, despite all this, the greed of banks is limitless, and today they are turning to different activities to increase their unjustified profits. This is why many economic analysts believe that what happened in 2008 could recur, but with much more significant damage. Finally, if you enjoyed this video, leave us a like and go watch our other videos.